So this program, this workshop that you guys are doing is phenomenal because obviously you guys are all exceptional members of our community. So first of all, congratulations on making the decision to want to go like to med school, and whatever your motivation, if you want to help people that are suffering, if you want to cure disease, if you want to make like medical breakthroughs, if you just think like you look badass in a white coat, that's totally cool, right? But that's not an easzy decision. So maybe just start out like, what made you want to become a doctor?
Yeah, I think for me, a lot of it was seeing family members, friends, kind of needing to leave off island for medical care. You always hear about like physician shortages on Guam and the need for medical care. So I think that was one of the big drivers, at least for me, was kind of just seeing people close to me needing medical care.
Okay, now as a third-year medical student, what has the journey been like thus far? And having to study the way that you do, getting in a different mindset, and like really like interacting with, like in your third year now.
So my first 2 years was when I studied every single day. I still study every single day, even on vacation. But I think now I'm applying what I'm learning in the clinical field. It's definitely a challenge, but I think all of us are like very motivated and want to, like Mason say, like come back and make a difference. And I think that's a strong motivator to like continue on, even though it's getting really challenging.
Now, CG, I can use a analogy that our former police chief once told me here. Is he said, I can put a patrolman on every single corner on Guam and it still wouldn't be enough. It's probably the same thing for like physicians, right? There's always going to be a need for people to help, for compassionate people to like actually to help fight disease, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think especially, we see people are living longer. There's definitely a need for physicians through for every single specialty. I think especially for Guam, we're geographically isolated, so having as many different specialists possible and present on island, I think is super helpful. Otherwise, we'd have to take like a 7.5, 8-hour flight to Hawaii or 3.5 to the Philippines.
And based on your concern for our community and our island and everything, and how you guys want to see your profession grow, what is this project that you've now all like collaborated and all got together to really help people that are going to make that decision as you did maybe 4 or 5 years from now?
Yeah, so our group in total I think is 26 medical students, 13 medical residents, 5 graduate students, and then 5 undergraduate researchers here from Guam. I think altogether we're trying to build a capacity to create a system that allows more physicians to be generated, especially local grown ones. So we want to create a mentoring program to help those interested in medical school, help them through the process of applying, taking the MCAT, getting them into medical school. And then in theory, like the people that are residents or the medical students before them are also getting mentorship on how to get into residency and how to navigate that whole process. And then in a way it creates this like continuous circle of just mentorship and support for the next generation of physicians.
And how young of say your target audience, right? Are you reaching out to? Are you looking at like high schoolers or undergrads or people that are kind of good at science but they don't know what they want to like do just yet because everybody's all into STEM? Or
I think our target audience is anyone interested in medicine. We do a high school outreach, and so if any high schools want for us to come visit, we will. We also do a lot of undergraduate like mentorship and try to like help them along the way so that they know the steps in applying to medical school, because it could be a long process and a tough one. And so starting as young as high school is a perfect way to get introduced to medicine.
And you guys, obviously you're studying one of the key elements of being an effective physician is empathy, right? And the ability to actually relate to like your patients. You guys have a undeniable advantage to be able to connect to young people here because you guys come from like the same villages, like what it's like to live here and everything. How are you guys actually using that to like really connect with the local community?
Yeah, I think at least for the advising standpoint, we're able to kind of talk with like face to face with kids that are interested in going into medicine. It's kind of finding connections between them, like, hey, like, did you go to this camp or did you go to this school? Did you do this activity? And we're kind of building these little connections and eventually like trying to introduce these guys into our organization to help and be boots on the ground while on island, while some of others may be in med school or undergrad in the mainland, and those that are on island can help out in any way they can kind of with the outreach. Okay,
well, one semester into med school, what has it been like for you so far, and what are you telling people about like just the experience?
Yeah, I mean, it's been busy. It's been really busy. It is extremely gratifying though, finally, kind of after all the years of high school sciences, undergrad sciences, taking the MCAT, and then now I actually get to kind of work with patients, learn more direct things related to healthcare. So I think that's been a really gratifying part of it, even though the work is a little bit tougher than what we're used to.
Now, I'm sure there's young people who like reach out to all you guys and just say, okay, well, I wasn't, top of my class. So, like if you guys were having me in one of your workshops, I'd say like, I was never like, top student, everything like that. Science was never really like a friend of mine and everything like that. What skills would I need, both hard and soft, if I want to make the decision to go to med school?
I think that's a myth, like that you have to be the smartest in your class to go to med school. I think there's a lot of other ways in your application that you can excel. So like through community service, through like organizations like this, like showing that you're interested in giving back. I think a lot of medical schools are really into it, that aspect, but we can help you along the way, like improve your MCAT score, give you some advice to boost your application if you don't think it's the strongest academically, but that's like not the only thing that med schools are looking at. So I think that's a great question.
And with the two of you, there's a long legacy of Guam physicians who have come from the Burn School at UH.
Yes, it's actually pretty funny. I would say a lot of my mentors here went to JABSOM, and I think a lot of yours went to JABSOM.
Dr. Bob Leon Guerrero. Did Dr. Erica Alford also go to UH?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But like Dr. Uggan, Dr. Munya Uggan, Dr.
Yeah.
Mendiola, a lot of the physicians at GMH went to the same school we are. And I think it's a great opportunity going to Hawaii because the patient population that we serve in Hawaii kind of reflects the population here. So the experience that we get in Hawaii is really applicable to the patient population here.
Yeah, I worked at GMH last year during my gap year, so I actually worked under Dr. Jolina Uggan and Dr. Paul Munya Uggan, both JABSOM grads, both Imihola graduates, and so they were kind of like the major advertisers for JABSOM for me, kind of seeing how they practice, how they treat their patients, how they treat everyone like family and treat them like their own. That was something that was super motivating for me to go to JABSOM, and even after only like one semester, I can kind of feel that with every professor, every doctor that I work with, that kind of culture is being pushed forward.
Okay, now CJ, a lot of like youngsters like these days, and people are reaching out to like kids as young as like middle school now, and they're saying the goal should be to go to college, and you'll find the one that's good for you. Harvard is not for everybody. Stanford is not everybody's cup of tea. There is a school that's for everybody out there. Is it? I don't want to say is it easier to apply to med school, but like how do you actually find the medical program that really suits what you want to do in your career as a physician?
Yeah, so I do want to add, you mentioned a little bit about like alternate pathways. I did go through community college in California, so like it's definitely doable, especially if you have a community college background.
Hey, I went to University of Phoenix, bro.
Yeah, exactly. But to get to answering your point, I think as you go through different medical schools, sometimes their mission statements all sound alike, but I think some important things to consider, like Morgan and Mason had talked about, it was like the patient population that you'd be working with. So for example, like in San Diego, there's a huge Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander community there, which is really neat. Every year we have the Pacific Islander Festival, so I'm out there doing hypertension blood screenings, and then I'm also connected in with like the entire Southern California and California like Pacific Islander community at large. So it's actually really cool to be able to work there. But yeah, I think there's a med school for everybody out there. Some are more focused towards community health, some are more research focused, like maybe Harvard or Stanford might be, but I think there's definitely a push from medical school admissions to try and get a wide breadth of students from different backgrounds. And it can be as little as like some people could be teachers, like that was some of my classmates' backgrounds. Some were even firefighters before they joined medical school. So I think everyone comes from a wide array of backgrounds, and it's really cool to get everyone's different perspectives. Okay,
Morgan, if you can, right, because I'm sure that most people watching this, their entire knowledge about the process of going through medical school, right, is probably just from Grey's Anatomy, right?
Yeah.
But what is the career progression in between, like, like a first-year student like Mason and a third year like yourself, and when you do your internship and residency, and like what's the whole flow of all that?
Okay. So different schools kind of do it differently, but your first 2 years of medical school will be purely studying, and some maybe standardized patient scenarios, but this is where you're gonna gain the most knowledge. You're gonna find out about every little disease there is in the world, and kind of try to almost, I think the first 2 years is kind of like House, where you kind of use all the clues together to find what the person may have.
Another really good medical show.
Yeah. And then I think the third and fourth year are kind of what people think Grey's Anatomy is. We're still in medical school, so we're not interns or residents, but we're in the hospital following the med student or the interns and residents and trying to put our knowledge that we learned in the first 2 years and apply it to like the patients we see. We go through all their labs, we take a thorough history and do physical exams. So I think third and fourth is more like hands-on Grey's Anatomy style like medicine.
Okay, and then Mason, what we've learned from like shows like that is also there comes a point when you mentor under a tenured physician and you have to make a choice in what you want to specialize in, because there's like 1,000 different areas in medicine that you can do. Yeah,
I think that's kind of the difficult process of it, is like you don't necessarily know exactly what you want to go into because there's so many things you haven't seen before, and kind of as each block and each system goes on, you kind of learn about the disease processes, the pathologies, and you kind of build an interest towards it. That's kind of where shadowing comes in as well, kind of seeing what doctors do on their day-to-day, what are their bread and butter cases, what kind of patients do they see often. It's also what you're interested in, like coming back to Guam, focusing on things like chronic ailments, chronic diseases that are highly affecting the island. So those are kind of things that all of us are very interested in, coming back and helping out.
What are some of those areas for each of you that, like, litigo-bodig is a big thing for our people. Obviously hypertension, diabetes, the level of cancer we have here, very often so much higher than, like stateside norms and everything like that. So what do you guys want to do, when you finally, pass the boards and?
Yeah, I'm still in my first year, so that's still a big, I don't know, I'm kind of casting a wide net right now, so I'm kind of interested in a lot of things like across the board, like general surgery, internal medicine, emergency medicine,
Right
kind
on.
of all on the table for me right now still.
Okay.
So I'm in my third year, so it's coming to a point where I'm going to have to decide because I have residency applications coming on later next year, so it's kind of close for me. But I think I'm going to specialize in OB-GYN.
Right.
So obstetrician and gynecology, which
Nice.
I think is one of the most needed specialties on island.
Women's health is always a really big thing here too.
Yes.
How about you, CJ?
I think I'm still pretty much open to a lot of different things, like Mason, still pretty early on, haven't really switched into the clinical years that Morgan was talking about. But a lot of the internal medicine or even like some of the surgical subspecialties all seem really cool, just because I think it's really fun being able to do things with your hands all the time.
I know a bunch of people that said, I went to med school because I really wanted to help kids. And then when I actually saw in pediatrics kids like suffering and they're like, I couldn't do that, or I just felt I had a calling, or I just gravitated so much better to cardiology or neuroscience or stuff like that. But I mean, that is kind of a process, and you find the best fit for yourself, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much, I think, what a lot of the preclinical and then even the clinical years are really helpful for. It gives you a sense of like what the day-to-day life might be like for that specialty. Granted, it may not be like the clearest picture just because you're rotating through like different times of the year, different weeks. But I think third year is like a really great way for you to solidify what you want to go into. Usually because at the start of your fourth year is when you're applying for residency, which is what Morgan has coming up on her plate.
Okay, well, we wish you all the best of luck. And finally, because this is awesome, and you guys are doing so much outreach, which is probably the tip of the iceberg, what you're going to do when you're finally, licensed physicians, how can people reach out to you, and where can they find you, if they want to get more deep conversations like we're having like right now, or find out, about the med school process?
Yeah, so we have an outreach event going on this Friday, I believe at UOG, where we're going to be hosting a bunch of different workshops about what it's like to prepare for the application process, study for the MCAT, ways we can make the application process cheaper for ourselves, just to name a few. But then we also have a website, I think it's chalanamte.com, where you could reach out to us. You could reach out to us for things like mentorship. You have contact information for all of us. I think that's one of the best ways. You could just reach out directly to us, or I don't know, Guam's super small. You could just ask our friend to reach out to their friend that's in medical school.
Somebody's cousin knows you guys.
Somebody's cousin.
Hey, but you guys aren't back on Guam forever. I mean, it's the holiday break, so make sure to reach out to them, guys. While you can, because this is fantastic. Okay, Morgan, as a doctor-to-be, what would you maybe give advice to our people? Like, of course, it's the holiday season. Everybody's, kicking back with friends. You got office parties. Everybody's eating probably more than they should and everything like that. How can we stay healthy heading into the new year?
I think staying healthy into the new year, there is always good food back home, but I think the best way would just incorporate portions and like a fun activity. Maybe go walk around and see the lights and just get some walking outside with all the kids in your family.
All right, and then Mason, a final question to you, bro. What has this journey meant for you? So early on, but big things obviously like our head and like How exciting is it? How challenging is it? How stressful has it been?
I mean, it's been awesome. I think the stress is part of the excitement. It's kind of the adrenaline rush, knowing you need to know so much in order to do so much. And I think that's a really amazing thing about medicine, kind of moving forward. Like, we can never stop learning. Like, there's always new things to learn, always more people to help. So I think that's a super exciting thing for me.
Well, you've been on our national volleyball team, national tennis team. Is this your life's greatest challenge?
Yeah, I think this is way harder than any athletic event. I feel like there's definitely way more pressure on the line. I mean, I'm not just playing for a medal or a win. I'm playing for like lives to save on an island, kind of giving back to the people that raised me. I think it's something a lot bigger than sports. So that's really exciting.
There is no greater calling than the ability to save lives. Okay, so CJ, Morgan, Mason, man. Well, personally, I look forward to interviewing you guys down the line when we can finally call you guys like doctors, and we wish you all the best, and thank you for making the choice to take care of our people, man. You guys are awesome.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.